The Utah housing market is getting out of hand, a far cry from what it was just a few months ago. Homes are sitting on the market for weeks instead of days. Sellers keep dropping their prices, and buyers have all but disappeared with mortgage interest rates near 7%. The traditional way of selling real estate doesn't seem to be working. So I've asked Dustin Zeller, a creative real estate expert, to explain what he's doing to help people sell their homes fast and for top dollar in this market. I teamed up with Dustin a few years ago to give my clients the best options. Dustin has helped hundreds of people maximize their profits from the sale of their home using a creative system that he has perfected. Simply put, he's the best at what he does, and that's finding creative ways to bring buyers and sellers together. Dustin is an investor, a real estate agent, and for 20 plus years, he's been doing the real estate game and mostly focusing on creative real estate. Dustin, can you tell us briefly your story or why you chose to focus on the creative side of real estate?
I got into the business as an investor back in the early 2000s, buying properties, doing what a lot of investors want to do. Later on, got my real estate license and have been doing creative real estate for the last 15, 20 years.
What are you currently seeing in the Utah housing market?
Man, this one's kind of a loaded question. It's kind of fun actually too. I'm seeing a lot of panic, fear, and I'm seeing a lot of opportunity.
What do you mean by opportunity?
Well, let's start with fear, first of all, and just kind of talk about what's going on.
Right, good call.
I'm watching listings right now where people are putting the house on the market and saying stuff like, I have an appraisal for $650,000 from 6 months ago. Well, yeah, no kidding. They're now listed at $620 or $610, and they've discounted at $10,000 every few weeks, and it's still not selling, and it's days on market 50, 60 days. Kind of a little bit of blood in the streets, so to speak, with listings and properties not selling.
6 months ago, homes are selling in 6 days on average.
Yeah.
For the last 2 years, really.
What I love is creativity. And if you think me going into a house that I want to buy where there's 16 offers on the table that I can come in with creativity and get creative, good luck. They're like, dude, I've got 20 offers that are 30 grand above list price, and why do I need to talk to you about your creativity? And so when I say opportunity, that's what I'm talking about. But the panic and the fear that is going on in the market right now, whether that lasts for 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, it's actually opening up a ton of opportunity.
What do you mean by opportunity?
If you're a seller, if you're an investor, and you're looking to put your house on the market in a very general vanilla format, you're doing something wrong. Let's talk about the options of what most people are facing right now. Option A, put my house on the market with a realtor who's going to come in and tell me, we'll do a pretty open house this Saturday. It's going to be fantastic. I'm going to take professional photos of your house, put it on the market. It's going to be awesome. And we're going to get buyers to buy your house. Guys, that is so standard. It's not even funny. When I say creativity, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about pictures. I'm not talking about an open house. I'm not even talking about a tagline on a listing that says, I'll pay 3% in closing cost concessions for you, Mr. Buyer, so you can buy your rate down. I'm not talking about that kind of creativity. That's just a sliver of creativity. And if your agent or your friend selling your house is telling you that they're going to go knock it out of the park because they're going to add that line, it's time to go interview somebody with real creativity and do what we do and sell your house for more. Option B is traditionally, we're just going to rent the property. Rents are really high right now. We'll create cash flow and we'll do all those wonderful things that are taught in tons of investor books. I agree with a lot of those principles, but I think you're missing a huge picture, which is option C. Sell your house creatively. As a seller, could you go find somebody that gives you $100,000 down? Yeah, very probable. We've done it over 300 times. Could you find somebody that's going to pay you a 6.5 or 6.75 or maybe even 6.25% interest rate over the top of your 3% interest rate that you got 3 years ago because you timed the market perfectly? Would that be better than renting? I'd say so. Because with the relationship that we create between a buyer and seller with our program, seller doesn't have to do anything. You're not responsible to fix anything. You're not responsible to do anything. You know what you're responsible to do? Receive cash flow and just make sure that it got to your bank on time and paid your mortgage. It's a beautiful, beautiful scenario. And that's some of the opportunities that we're seeing in the market. Don't sacrifice the price. Keep it kind of where you wanted it to be. And then create massive cash flow that helps you into retirement and put a huge chunk of change in your pocket.
One thing I love about the creative financing that we do is it's actually a win-win situation for the buyer and the seller. It's awesome. I think that's what people don't understand. There's a better way to buy and sell homes, and using the bank isn't the better way. The bank always wins. Why do they always win? Because they're collecting all the money. As the seller, you can give the buyer a better deal, a better rate, and you get the interest.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
We've been selling primarily to people who couldn't qualify, mainly because they couldn't get a loan, bad credit, no credit, self-employment. Maybe their citizenship status wasn't perfect. Maybe they're self-employed and they wrote way too much off on their taxes and they're stuck getting kind of a bad loan. And so they'd come to us and we would do some creative financing and get them into a home when the banks had told them no. And so they were happy, we were happy, and we created a very pain-free win-win situation. Now what has shifted is the market. And you have people that are being quoted a 6.875% or a 7% interest rate, with the Feds talking about raising rates again. So they're probably going to be in the low sevens. And if you have a buyer that is now facing a 7% interest rate and they have 10% down and they're going to get PMI and they're going to have to pay 15 grand in closing costs, and all of a sudden they find our property, maybe your property, that you don't want to sell for $600,000 because that's what houses are selling for with competition and people asking for closing costs. And maybe we can now go sell it for $630,000, $640,000 and make you extra money. Maybe now we can offer them 6.5% with no PMI and save them money, and they'd be willing to come in and purchase that home. Now the buyers are anybody. What we specialize is not just finding the buyers, but structuring these deals to make sure that you as a seller are in a position of power, making sure that it's done right, written correctly, that if something goes wrong, which we have a small percentage of these deals where people don't
6%,
pay and
5%
is super low. But if it does happen, I don't want you as a seller to be stuck in a position where you're foreclosing, you're taking 6, 7, 8 months to get your property back. I want you to be in a position of power, and that's what we put together for you, and we'll walk you through it. It's a phenomenal way to sell your house in a market specifically that's going down. And then it creates capital. And what would you do with capital right now? People are always asking me, is now a good time to buy a house? Let's talk about that for a second.
Well, we're looking.
6, 7, 8 months ago, Ty and I talked about this, kind of brushed upon it. We had multiple offers. We had people beating down the doors trying to buy houses. A house for $400,000 was getting bid up to $430,000, $440,000, and in some cases more. Now those same houses are on the market for $390,000 and not selling. We specialize in not only going in and trying to buy those properties or help our clients purchase those properties, but we specialize in asking further questions and structuring deals where we can potentially buy it on seller financing with an interest rate far less than what the bank is charging.
Every single one of you has a different situation, and we're tailoring each of these deals to your needs. Also, I know Dustin he will not brag about himself, but he's blushing already. He is the best in the industry, and that's why I teamed up with Dustin a few years ago, because I wanted to offer my clients the best options in the industry, and that's what we're doing. If you want us to sell traditionally, okay, we'll do that. We do that all the time. We can do that for you. If you need to get out of your house right now, immediately, if you need to just cash out, we can do that for you. Or option number 3 is the creative financing route, where we go out and either help you purchase a house with our creative financing or sell your house on creative financing.
A lot of this information straight up goes over people's heads, and that's not uncommon. So if some of these things are kind of confusing you or you have questions, totally fine. If you have a property to sell, your own personal home or an investment property, or you own 5 properties, I'm talking to you. It is worth a phone call to us to say, how does this option compare to selling my house traditionally, or maybe even just renting it until the market gets better? How would this option C benefit me and my family? Show me on paper the numbers. Show me the cash flow. Show me my responsibilities, my vulnerability, my risks that I have. Let's do my homework and figure out if it makes sense. And if you do that, pretty much every single person that meets with us says, okay, yeah, I want to do option C.
Let's do that.
Let's go.
We'll come to you, no pressure, just going to tell you what we do. You can tell us about your personal situation, and we're going to try to tailor something that works great for you. And we haven't even scratched the surface on what we're doing. I've heard a lot of agents talk about seller financing right now, but what I'm seeing is that a lot of them don't even really know what that is. And there's a lot of creative ways to buy and sell properties.
I'd love to echo on that comment right there, because there are a lot of agents who know a little bit about seller finance. They're starting to kind of echo some stuff on the multiple listing service saying, hey, we'll entertain seller financing and maybe we'll do it at these terms. Those are people that I'm going in and I'm buying properties because I know they don't know what they're doing. And it's an opportunity for me to go in as a buyer and negotiate really good terms.
Either for our clients or for ourselves or for
both.
whoever.
If you're a buyer and you want to buy, look at our next video. We're going to talk about that more in detail. You can turn these properties into a cash cow. You don't have to hire somebody that knows a little bit about seller financing, that sets it up through the wrong title company, the wrong way, creates a little bit of cash flow. And maybe they do get $10,000 or $20,000 more for you on the sales price because they've done something like that. If that's an option you're willing to take, call me. I'll buy your house. What am I going to do with it? I'm going to go sell it the right way on seller financing for more money, more interest rate, more cash flow. So if you have an agent or a friend or somebody telling you to do what I just discussed, you should call us because you're the one that wants to put that money in your pocket.
Well, we're not talking about buying a car here. It's a house. This is the biggest investment that most people make in their entire life. Would you want to trust your biggest investment to someone who just barely got their real estate license? We've been doing this for a long time. Dustin's been doing it for like 20 years. And I promise you, he knows the ins and outs of seller financing. He will maximize your profits. He'll protect you better than anybody else out there.
We actually have a real life situation with a client of ours who has implemented a lot of the things that we teach, and they're killing it. Matter of fact, they bought a house about a year ago, lived in the house. Ty and I just recently listed the house for seller financing, sold it. I believe we got a 6.5% interest rate, a large amount of money down. And they're now looking to move. They got pre-approved with the lender, got told that they can buy a house up to close to $500,000 and that their rate would be right around 6.5%, and that we needed to get a contract into him to purchase ASAP so he could lock the rate.
Right.
And we went around and started showing properties, talking to the listing agents. We're able to implement situations where you can sell with a high interest rate and buy with a low interest rate. And if that intrigues you, guys, there's so much opportunity. You hiring us, you coming to us and saying, hey, go knock it out of the park for us. You don't have to be a genius at this. You just have to hire the geniuses to go do it for you. That's
right.
it.
Hire the right
Simple.
people. The client that we're talking about, their family, this is actually one of my favorite stories because we've taken them from just a simple home owner to real estate investors in really just over a year, and we can see their potential to grow and actually have a great retirement someday.
We had a phone call with them last week when we called them up and basically said, hey, we offered on this property $20,000 low, $10,000 below list price that was already reduced like
10,000
20, 30 grand.
Yeah.
Then we asked for 10 grand in closing costs. They inevitably wanted to come back and counter. And when they wanted to counter and the agents are having a conversation, we're planting seeds, we're asking questions. Next thing you know, we've negotiated out a seller financing term to purchase this property at much, much, much better terms than they would have got from the bank. The seller was just happy that we were willing to pay, instead of $10,000 below list price and $10,000 in concessions and closing costs, we're willing to meet in the middle. But what we were willing to do is pay an interest rate of 4-point-something%, and they were happy with it. And our client was stoked about it. Our client was actually kind of dumbfounded about it, like, wait a minute, I can do this? That's possible? I've realized there's ways to sell on seller financing, but you're telling me I can buy on seller financing. What's my risks? How am I protected? How are we going to close this? All those same questions popped up. We walked through those, and now they're just like, dude, let's go look. Let's go find houses. Let's negotiate. Let's find deals. And I wouldn't be shocked if they buy 2 or 3 houses in a year. They just buy as an investment, non-owner occupied property on SellerFi, and then turn and sell on seller finance. Phenomenal ways to go because other people don't know how to do it. That's where the benefit and advantages come in.
So Dustin, what do you recommend for those who have rental properties that they're sick of or that they have been thinking about selling? Maybe they wish they'd sold it last year when the market was going crazy. What should they do?
I've heard this from a lot of people. A lot of people like, dang, I missed the opportunity. I wish I would have, kind of that mentality. Now is an opportunity to turn it into a cash cowing machine and not sacrifice a ton in value like you actually think you might have to do. With these strategies, we can sell above market value and curb that loss that you're afraid that you might get.
And you can keep that monthly income. It keeps coming in. And so you have that also, and you'll make tens of thousands of dollars more maybe than if you had sold it 6 or 8 months ago.
Yeah, it's really interesting when you stack up seller finance and the principles and creativity that we put in our strategies. Typically, you cash flow more than you would in an actual rental situation. Instead of getting a $2,000, $3,000 security deposit, you get people that are giving you $60,000, $80,000, $100,000 down. Right. In some scenarios, even more. And there's a lot of strategies we put in place to maximize the amount of down payment payment that you can get. There's a few different types of investors that we've worked with and we've ran across in the last few years. You have the investors that have deep, deep pockets, multiple properties, but the investors who they've got some equity in their personal home and they've went out and they've bought 2 or 3 or 4 investment properties. And maybe to get the down payments to buy those investment properties, maybe they opened up a home equity line of credit and they've got some cash flowing properties. So now they've got their owner occupied home. They've got a great interest rate on the first mortgage, but they've got a home equity line of credit at $200,000. They're not upside down, but they're starting to feel a little pressure. And the HELOC is adjustable variable and is now at 6.99%. And they're starting to feel the stress. If you took those 3, 4, 5 cash flowing investment properties that you have a good interest rate on, as your tenants move out, which I would prompt them to move out very rapidly. I actually think the market's going to go down $10,000 a month every single month for the next handful of months with the blood in the water and everybody's fear. If you can take that property that once was worth $550 that you now are feeling like you would have to sell for $490 and let us go sell it for you for $530 or $540 or something along those lines, implementing a strategy where some guy gives you 80, 90, 100,000 down. Could you take a chunk of that down payment and pay off your HELOC? Will this property cash flow more than most likely you're renting the property for right now? Yes, typically it does.
Right.
As a seller, how am I responsible for the potential water heater going out, the roof leaking and those fix-its, or a tenant damaging stuff and me having to go in there and replace carpet and paint every 5 or 7 or 8 years or whatever that scenario is? The relationship is completely changed. The cash flow is more. The cash up front is a lot more. You get yourself in a situation where you're comfortable, you have cash available to pounce on opportunities that we'll talk about in the next video.
I'm going to ask you a question. It's a hard question. See how you do. What do you recommend for those who have a real estate agent that they're maybe not happy with, or they're kind of wondering what they should do?
Great question. 9 months ago, any agent
What's the best agent in the world?
with any experience put it on the market and get it sold with a half a brain. Now, I'm not saying your agent has a half a brain, but in a down market when it's now hard to sell a property, not all agents are created equal. If you want to go hire a discount broker to sell your house for a small commission, that's going to cost you dearly on your negotiations. If you're going to hire an agent that doesn't have extra creativity, you're going to miss out. We don't poach listings from other agents. Now, if you have a current contract with your agent and it expires in 30 days, there's not much we can do for you right now.
In the last week, we talked to 2 different agents and helped them understand a little bit about the seller financing process.
Well, we had one lady that was awesome. And when we were talking with her, answering and solving the problems for her client to sell the house on creativity, seller financing, she immediately was like, I've got 2 other deals. They're not moving. They're not selling. Can you help me get those sold? And we will work with other agents. It is a lot easier if you haven't hired an agent yet.
Call us first. At least let us share what we're doing, so you can make an educated decision from there. And if we're not right for you, that's fine.
A lot of agents come in with a flashy presentation about how phenomenal they are and they take good pictures and they've got a great track record and they've got all that other kind of stuff. I come in and I say, hey, I'm one of the only agents that you're ever going to run across where we are actually going to earn our commission. And here's what I mean by that. If I come in and I sell your property for 40 or 50 grand more than the other guy can, create cash flow and do all that other stuff, you're leaving money on the table by not calling us. And those numbers have been proven again and again with what we do.
If you're looking to buy, sell, build a home, or invest in Utah real estate, I get contacted all the time. Please feel free to call or text me with your questions. I'd love to meet you, and I'm honored to serve you. For everyone else, please feel free to share your thoughts in the comment section below. I always do my best to respond to each one of you. If you have a friend or a family member looking to buy or sell a home in Utah, you can easily text us to them. And please, don't forget to hit the subscribe button below and ring the bell to be notified each time I post new videos. Also, you can find me on Instagram at Ty, the Real Estate Guy. If you found this information helpful, please give me a thumbs up. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to ring that little bell below. It'll make you feel good.